about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone. Today's topic will be one that is probably splitting America in half, or maybe in quarters or eighths, but it's the border, securing the border. This is the most misunderstood policy I believe that the Trump administration and prior administrations have ever confronted and tried to address to the American people. Unfortunately, so much of this is actually been categorized in such a fashion or promoted in such a fashion as to gain votes, not to talk logic and to make the American people understand why borders are important and why sometimes they're very unimportant. All we know is that our borders must be secure, and of course, and we should do everything that we can, regardless of cost. But when you start breaking it down and you start analyzing the situation, you find out that our approach to securing our borders is all wrong. In fact, so much of the political rhetoric is all wrong. And not only that, but it is absolutely unconstitutional. All right? Now, no one would admit saying, oh no, we should open our borders and just let anyone in and then see what happens. And if another country invades us, just invite them in for coffee. I mean, this is almost the mentality that we have today. But that's not the case. Let's go back in history a little bit. When we came here, when the Europeans came here, first the Spaniards and the Portuguese, and then the English and whatever. When they came here, they landed at different parts, mostly in the Caribbean, but also on the mainland. And when they got off of their boats, no one said anything to them, saying it, they just came here and did what they want to do. They didn't ask for permission from anyone. They didn't say, geez, do you mind if we come here and stay and we will buy some property from you? No, the Europeans primarily came here, right, and basically took the land. There was no border. There was no qualifications. The people who lived on that land not only didn't get paid, many of them got killed for being there. So if you think about American history, we talk about America, American history, you have to understand that from the very inception, from times of Columbus, and I know he was not the first person to come to America. People came here well before him, but we attribute so much to, Columbus discovered America. America had been discovered probably 1,000 years before that. But when people came here, they came here and they just assumed that they could come in and settle in. In other words, they saw a piece of property, they built a house or whatever, they had a hut, and lived there and farmed it and whatever. And we did that all over the eastern seaboard, and then we started to expand inland. There was no tests. The Indian tribes that actually were living here didn't say, excuse me, you have to take a test to see if you're eligible to come in here, and you have to really speak our language. Or we need to give some medical tests to make sure you're not carrying any communicable diseases. No, we just came here and took over the place like we bought it and own it. So I just say that as a background because America was formed by foreigners coming in and literally just taking the land and settling on it. And for the most part, no one objected to that because there was plenty of land and people came here and they settled, and they also created jobs and developed farms and whatever. As time went by and we became more structured, we became more concerned as to who's coming in and who's not coming in. And if you look at our borders are thousands and thousands of miles. I think if you look at the borders, it's over 10,000 miles of borders. First of all, there's not enough people in the United States to protect all of our borders in the first place. But one thing that the French did is that they gave us the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty has this saying on it: "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuge of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." In other words, they were saying, it's open borders. Come in, settle the land. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. There was no test to come here. People just came here and settled. They didn't own anything, and most people initially when they came to settle here didn't buy anything. They may have traded with the native Indian tribe, for land or other items, but that was about it. So why aren't we doing that today? My father came here in the 1930s. I don't remember the exact year. He came from Italy. In fact, he came in into the New York Harbor, did not apply, didn't have any papers at all, did not apply for passage or whatever, or acceptance. He just got on a boat because things were very bad in Italy at the time, and he needed to come here so he hopefully can get a job and send money back to his parents that needed it badly. Mussolini took over his father's factory. He had a small factory in Italy, and his father committed suicide. And there were no jobs in Italy at the time, so he thought he would come here, make some money, and send some money to his mother so they can survive. Now, when my father came here, he didn't have any papers. He could hardly write. I think my father completed the 5th or 6th grade in Italy. And that's it. That's the only education. He spoke no English whatsoever. When he came here, they made a mistake on his visa, or whatever they call it, his passport, or whatever they get, the papers. In fact, on one paper they have one birth date, and on another paper they had another birth date, both in the year, month of November. So we always celebrated his birthday twice in November. And of course, back then when I was young, we never went out to eat. We just didn't have the facility to do that. But every November we went to eat twice, and we celebrated my father's birthday twice. Just a little anecdote. Anyway, so my father came here. Now I think they gave him some sort of test to see if he had a communicable diseases or whatever. And then he came in. When he arrived here, he knew someone, and they lived on, I think, 82nd Street in Manhattan, and he shared an apartment with someone, and he got a job at a Polish piano factory. They say they beat the heck out of him every single day because he was the hardest working guy there, and he was showing everybody else up. So, I mean, it was a very, very tough time. There was no guarantee. There were no government subsidies. There was no nothing. And that's how everyone came here, both from the Far East, Japan and Far East, as well as in all parts of Europe. They came here because it says here, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearn to breathe free. They took advantage of that. Now, did they bring crime? Of course there was a certain level of crime. No matter what population you have, you're going to have X number, a very small percent of people in crime. But that doesn't mean you stop everyone in the world from moving or going somewhere. Now, you do whatever you can to, minimize the crime and to arrest those people, who created them to make sure they're out of the mainstream society so they don't cause any problems. Now, as far as Mexico is concerned, Mexico used to have an open border with the United States. And the immigration stopped in the 1930s. It didn't stop because we had Border Patrol. It's because of the Great Depression, that there were no more jobs, so people stopped coming here. What they would do primarily is come here, work the farms during the day for a whole week, and then on the weekends they would go back. Or at any point in time they would go back and they would switch so that they would see their family, and they would get paid. And of course they got paid pretty low wages, lower than the people who were citizens, but they did so because things in Mexico were so bad. That stopped in the 1930s during the Depression because there were no jobs for them. So it's a natural flow of people. Now, why didn't we build a wall back then? Stop all those people from coming in, working our farms when we had people that are out of work. Well, we let the natural course of events work. And they did work, and they worked very well. Now, today, we have people saying, well, we need to build a wall. And it sounds so enticing. It sounds like, oh, yes, we're going to be strong. We're going to build a wall. First of all, and of course, they always talk about drugs and, drugs coming into the United States. Most of the drugs that come into the United States don't come in. People don't carry it in their back pocket and then climb a wall and then walk through a desert and sell it to someone. No, most of the drugs come via air and by sea. Now, I used to live in Houston, Texas, and I used to go down to Galveston, to go swimming and whatever. And you can't believe what a vast area that is. And yet there's no waterboard there. A boat could have showed up. People jump out, In fact, the water was very, very, very low. It didn't. In New York, you walked into the like Jones Beach. You'd walk in and it'd go down, and you'd be in deep water. Very shallow water all the way out. So boats can come in. You can jump off and actually walk maybe a half a mile to shore. Well, there's no border wall on a beach. You can't build one. I mean, it's just tourism would be killed altogether. And so there are many ways to come into the United States. It's not only the wall, right? They can come in by sea. And now, as far as drugs are concerned, most of the drugs come in here by air. And if you're talking about people who are illegal, many of the people who come here legally with papers decide to stay here, don't renew their visas, and are here illegally, according to today's rules, right? Because they want to stay here and they're afraid that they're going to be rejected and then deported. So they do nothing. They sort of hide, get a job, and stay here, quote, illegally. Now, people are coming in from the Far East. People are coming in from the Mediterranean. People are coming in from Mexico and Central America. And people are coming in from the East to the East Coast. There's no way you can control that. If you did, you'd need probably every person in the United States and then some in order to control it. It's an insane policy. Well, not only, even if it was possible, you wouldn't want to do it. I mean, why was it that in the 1900s, the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, why was it okay for these people to come in gigantic masses on these ships? I mean, thousands of people a day would come in every day, and it was acceptable. And now we have this one road that from Mexico, the highway that goes to the border, and you have to go through that border and go through all this rigmarole. I mean, and of course, most people can't stay out there for all their lives waiting to get in, so they get in any way they can. Well, people say, well, what about all these drugs that are being brought in? Well, the drugs are not being brought in, as I said, via land. They're coming via either boat or by airplane. And not only that, But a large amount of the drugs are being smuggled into the United States via tunnels. Now, you have to understand that what's causing the problem is our government. Our government causes the problem because they made drugs illegal. When you make a substance illegal, the street price goes up. When the street price goes up, the people who are transacting in that enterprise don't pay taxes. In fact, they cost the government, the taxpayer money, because they don't pay taxes, and government has to hire extra police enforcement people in order to monitor them. So it's a net loss for the people who are here, who are working here, right? And it's a net gain for the people who are dealing in illegal drugs. So first of all, my first suggestion is make all the drugs legal. Now, before you classify me as clinically insane, this is what Portugal did. And they thought, again, that, well, everyone will be on drugs and it'll be one big drug house. Actually, drug use is substantially down. Rehabilitation is substantially up, right? They have no more drug war, right? And things are going very, very well. And there's less drug use. So they've actually solved the problem by making it legal. Now, once it's legal, there's no money in it. I mean, you can grow a drug in your backyard, right? And it doesn't cost you anything. Are you going to go on a street corner late at night in some slum neighborhood and pay, $500 for a little bag of no, you can make it in your backyard for free. So you actually put crime out of business. Now, I talk about the drug wars because that's one of the reasons why we have these build a wall. No, the United States was defined as a country that welcomes everyone. Now, if you disobey the law, once you are here, yes, you can be arrested and put in jail, or even, if you kill somebody, and maybe even get the chair, depending on the state that you're in. But there's no reason to build a wall. We have no money to build a wall. We are broke as a nation. There's no way we can support it by having thousands of troops go up and down and accomplish absolutely nothing, because a preponderance of all of the drugs are coming via airplane or tunnel or boat. And it doesn't necessarily have to come via Mexico. It can come via the West Coast. And then when you think about the insanity of a border wall, what about the border between the United States and Canada? That's over 3,000 miles. Oh, the Canadians wouldn't do that. Well, wait a minute. Well, how do you know? We don't know. I mean, if you're going to secure your borders, you can't. I mean, it's like saying, I'm going to secure my house. I'm going to get the best door and lock and leave all the windows open. You can't do that. It won't work if you really have a legitimate problem. But the problem is that we have no problem. And we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, or a problem that was actually created by the government itself. So I am 100% against securing our borders. We can't afford it. It is ineffective. It'll bankrupt us, and it'll keep people out. And it's un-American, because America is here to accept all immigrants. Now, the people say, well, if they come here, the first thing they do is they go on welfare, Joe. What's wrong with you? Well, back in the early 1900s, there was no welfare. People came here and they improvised, and they may have had good jobs where they came from, but they took lesser jobs so they could at least sustain themselves, because they wanted to live and be citizens of the United States. They took lesser jobs, and they did a damn good job. We built this whole nation. The entire nation was built on the backs of immigrants from other countries, many countries of which we can't even spell. But they came here. And was it a crime? Sure, but it was minimal. It was much less than it is today, because they didn't have government involvement restricting people with what they do. So there was no illegalness. So you didn't have no illegalness. You had no crime because you could do it. Right? Now, we can learn from other countries who have legalized drugs, and that'll solve one problem. Maybe that'll convince you that way. People come here to work. They want the opportunity to work, and we need them. Now, we should get rid of obviously, we should discontinue all welfare. Whether you're born here in the United States or you come in here from another country, east, west, north, or south, makes no difference. We should be land of the free, home of the brave. That's exactly what we say all the time. But why are we sacrificing all of these people, these good people who want to come here to work, when we have people, kids in our ghettos that will not even go to school? Only 30% in the ghettos in the United States, and I'm not talking about any particular race, color, creed, or whatever, but only about 30% of them even graduate high school. Then they work on it. Why go to high school when I can deal in drugs in my neighborhood? Of course, Bobby over there makes $3,000 a week. There's an incentive for you. But if they didn't get an education or a trade, and we should do away with our school system the way it is today, we should just have schools available so kids can learn. Our young people can learn trades or whatever. They want to become an economist, become an economist. You want to become a motorcycle mechanic, become a motorcycle mechanic. We should make these opportunities available to them. And they don't cost anything. They cost practically nothing compared to what we're doing today. So securing our border is not a principle that the very Constitution abides by. We should, in fact, embrace the fact that we have open borders, that we allow people in, and allow people to live their lives as they please. Now, if they do commit a crime when they are here, they should be punished or accordingly, or fined or imprisoned, or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying we should have crime in the street and just overlook it. I'm saying you'd wind up having a lot less crime. People today won't walk 2 miles or 2 blocks to walk to a grocery store. They'll take a car. I mean, that's America for you. There's a grocery store down here, sometimes I take the car. I could get lazy. These people not only come from Mexico, but they come from San Salvador and other countries in Central America, south of Mexico. And they walk for months, near starving to death, to come here. You think that crooked people who have criminal intent, will go through that? No. Criminals don't like to work. They want to make big money fast. Legal, illegal, makes no difference. But these people with their children walk hundreds and sometimes thousands of miles to get here. And then we tell them, go back to where you belong. Is that America for you? That's not America. That's a shame. That's a communist country. That's a country that thinks more of what it has than the good of the people. I know this is a very, very controversial subject. I wrote myself so many notes here. I'm afraid I'm going to go on. Foreigners also have a high degree of family orientation. And we need more of that. We need more family orientation. But because of the high taxes and burdens on the American family today, mother and father both work, kids go to school, they don't know their parents at all. And what's really bad is in the ghettos, the low-income areas in America, where kids, hang around the streets all the time because their parents aren't home to help them. They're not even home to let them in the house, when they come out of school, if they go to school. We have problems, folks. And open borders is not one of them. I say we open the borders, get rid of all this legislation that is proven to be ineffective. We should get rid of all the restrictions on what people want to take. If I want to take an aspirin, I'll take an aspirin. I'm sure there's a law somewhere that says I can't take more than 2 aspirins, but if I take 3 aspirins, what, are they going to arrest me? I don't do that. I don't take aspirins, but I'm just saying. But, you know, I don't understand what we're doing. You know, but people assume that because people come from other countries, they're bad people. They're not. They're probably better people than we are. Better constitution, better family values. And we should applaud them. We should receive them with open arms. And not the government, but people personally should assist them any way possible to become successful and good citizens. And we should stop spending these billions of dollars every year trying to stop something which we shouldn't be stopping in the first place. Now, I know many of you are going to find this quite upsetting and, you know, and anti-American, whatever. But I really wish that you would think of what I'm saying and see if that changes your mind. Our president is all wrong. He said, you know, we're going to build that wall. We got everyone excited. And he used that as a sort of a slogan to attract votes. But our president is not a successful businessman. He has failed in about every business that he embarked on. I would not want to emulate him. I don't hold him in high regard. And I think we're going to find out that he's probably going to be one of the worst presidents that we ever elected. And let me tell you this. I was not rooting for Hillary Clinton. I was rooting for Donald Trump. So you have a guy here who's rooting for Donald Trump, and now I'm saying this about him. Because I want to be a realist. And I wish we would think a little bit more critically as to what is going on. If he, in fact, was constitutional, I don't think he understands the Constitution, knows what it is, he's ever read it. I don't think he knows any of that. He just wants to do things and look flashy. And it wouldn't surprise me if the man is bankrupt. Someone asked me one time, they said if I agreed with Donald Trump's policies. And my answer was kind of nasty. And I said, quite frankly, I'm not dumb enough to understand our President Trump. And with that, I'll leave you with that to think about. Okay, I want to thank you very much for listening to our program. And please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe and press the like button. It really would help the program. And of course, if you want to send me email, it's comments@libertytalkradio.com. Okay, until next time, stay well and stay tuned.